AI cutting edge. Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. So I wanted to review open source artificial intelligence. It's up and coming. It will play a big role in corporate success going forward. There are proprietary, company-specific artificial intelligence systems. There's Google Gemini, there's OpenAI's ChatGPT, there's Grok by X.com. But the real story will be open source, free to download AI systems. So I wanted to do a review of that world. So open source AI, it's how you can get a large language model running on premises at your company with no connection to the internet or any external network. Now that's huge because the delay time between asking questions to an AI system that is remote, like Google Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, X.com's Grok, those are remote systems. Those are only accessed when your computer locally makes a call, a remote call across the internet to the faraway system. And so there's a delay time, latency built into that. And so there's an inefficiency. You have to wait for the results. If you have an on-premises, no internet connection artificial intelligence system, a large language model, there's almost no latency. You get the results instantly. Also, it's more private. It's private. You're not making calls over the public internet. So this is known as an air-gapped artificial intelligence system. An air-gap meaning you have your box, your computer on premises at your company, and there's no connection to the internet. There's an air gap between your computer and the internet. There's no hardwired connection. So motives. Why is this a big deal? Why is this cutting edge artificial intelligence? Price and privacy. The price will be lower. Instead of the price being controlled by the remote company, by Google, Gemini, OpenAI, or Grok, or any of the other large language models that are proprietary, the price of an open source AI system will be close to free. It'll be downloaded for free. You'll have to install it. Weights files, the inference engine, and you'll have to have a system to install it on. But the software is free to download. You will need to have someone on site to keep it running. You'll have to have an administrator sort of person, but you would have that anyway, even if you had a connection from your company to one of the public artificial intelligence systems. They're always changing things. They're always changing how you interact with them. You're going to have, even if you access the public, the proprietary, publicly accessed large language models, you would still have at least one person, an administrator. Here, the administrator is devoted to a private system that is on your business's premises, not some long distance away remote distance. So the weights files right now anyways, they're a little bit large, 10 to 100 gigabytes. So you can download those. The good thing is you download those once and you install them. And the other good news is they will get smaller in the future, and I'm going to explain that as we go through here. So this open source is much different than proprietary AI systems. There's no internet connection. The interaction is on premises, so it's private. So if you have company data that you do not want to risk putting out on the public internet through calls to a remote proprietary AI system, this is the way to go. A free open source download installed on your local computer on your premises. When you use it, it's all within the four walls of your company. So the privacy is really good, really great privacy, and it's inexpensive. I mean, if you compare it, if you use artificial intelligence a lot and you start looking at the bills you're getting for the usage, a lot of companies will say, we can do this more cheaply if we bring it in-house. It was sort of like what happened with Linux. When Red Hat came on the scene, the Linux adoption rate skyrocketed because there was an alternative to the higher cost systems that were for sale at those times. So while it's true that OpenAI, X.com with Grok, Google Gemini, while it's true they're sort of forging a path, eventually open source is going to be the way to go, the relevant choice, because it's private and it's cheaper. So the current system requirements, if you wanted to do this currently, You would need a computer, a box, a server box, 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you want a large system, 64 to 124 gigabytes. So I've got 64 gigabytes on my laptop. You know, it cost $1,000 a few years ago. 2.5 years ago, I got 64 gigabytes of RAM installed on a laptop for $1,000. So this is not a big deal. 64 gig to 128 gigabytes nowadays has got to be pretty cheap. And that's what you'd need for a large AI system. You need a graphics processing unit, a GPU, with 48 gigabytes of video RAM. That's also not that expensive these days. You need a large capacity solid state drive. I mean, my laptop came with all this stuff, and it was $1,000. I believe it's I think it's an HP laptop. And bought new. Large capacity solid state drive or hard drive. Mine came with 2 terabytes solid state drive. So this is not, you know, a few years ago, this would have been an expensive system. Now, you can get this for $1,000. 2.5 years ago, you could buy this stuff for $1,000, brand new. And then one in-house artificial intelligence staffer, somebody to, you know, an administrator, somebody to administer the AI server. You would have that anyways. If you're a heavy user at the corporate level of a public artificial intelligence system that's somewhere over the internet, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, you have an in-house AI staffer. You may as well have one devoted to your open source system. So right now, is there an opportunity for a Red Hat software type of business? Yes, there is. And with changes in the hardware that are coming, that I'm going to explain here pretty quickly, the opportunity is kind of wide open for a Red Hat style of open source AI company that will be the reliable, the go-to company that will serve as the, or at least provide something akin to an in-house staff member, AI staffer, who will put everything together open source wise for you so that you can avoid the, because the natural tendency for these AI companies, these large language model companies, Google Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and so on, is to create a walled garden, is to create proprietary things that keep you in that ecosystem and make it difficult for you to switch outside of it. So we don't want that. There might be lures in there, there might be attractors, but it's much, you know, it's just much more affordable to have an open source system, an open source AI system, where you're not tied to a walled garden, some proprietary company trying to keep you trapped in their ecosystem in a nice but sort of a gilded cage environment. You don't want that. You want something that is proprietary, that is, open source, you can download easily, cheap to operate, and private to your particular company, so you don't have to share data on the public internet. Okay, so what are some changes that are coming in the next 12 to 24 months? There's some cool stuff coming, okay? Right now, the weights files, which are quite large. The weights, by the way, are the sort of, you can think of it as, you know, in neural networks, the weights dictate how the large language model responds to inputs. So the more weights you have, the more training the large language model has been exposed to. So you're going to end up with larger weight files as you get to more powerful systems. Unless, if we look out the next 12 to 24 months, there are going to be some changes that are going to help. Right now we have 16-bit and 32-bit floating point numbers. Okay, so 16 and 32-bit numbers used for the weights. These weight files are large because they're built up from 16 and 32-bit numbers. That's changing to 1-bit, binary, 1 bit, and 4 bits up to 8 bits. But if you can just imagine a 32-bit weight file dropping down to 1 bit, that's a huge savings. And the smaller these weight files are, the faster they download, the more nimble they are inside the LLM system. This is going to be a huge deal. This is called quantization, when we change the 16 and 32-bit floating point numbers down to 1, 4, or 8-bit numbers. That's going to be a huge improvement. And that's generally, as I've said in other videos, that's, you know, generally that's how computers work. They get smaller, they get faster, and they get cheaper. And that's where we're going with AI too. So it will be easy to deploy artificial intelligence on smaller, cheaper systems. as the weight files drop in size. Same with the inference engine. They're making changes to the way the inference engines work, so that they're they're more cost effective, smaller pieces, dividing the inference engine into smaller pieces in terms of the hardware. So over the next 12 to 24 months, there will be generally smaller, everything will shrink in size. The files will shrink, the size of the hardware will shrink. There will be neural processing units, NPUs. Right now we have GPUs, graphical processing units. So those were used initially for AI because they were most akin to what we wanted to model in neural nets. Graphical processing units originally were created for bitmapped displays, computer displays, because it was easy to quickly access and update the information using a GPU. Now we're switching because we've got a new, a different kind of need. We're going to have neural processing units that will allow for faster math and less power usage, lower power usage, faster math. So neural processing units will be a specialization of what GPUs do right now. So if you're an investor in artificial intelligence in, say, NVIDIA, you should look for NPUs to start being discussed, because NVIDIA and others make their money from GPUs, graphical processing units. Neural processing units are going to become more and more relevant in the next 12 to 24 months. So look for that. Whoever comes through with breakthroughs in NPUs, they're going to have an edge. It's probably going to be NVIDIA. That being said, NVIDIA does not really have, if NPUs will put GPUs out of business, then NVIDIA doesn't really have a huge motivation to disrupt their own GPU business, right? So it might be somebody else. It might be a company other than NVIDIA that creates neural processing units, faster math, less power usage needed. Okay, so let's see if there was, okay, so there's some stuff I could not fit on the board. Open source hardware and software ecosystem right now as we speak. Software is PyTorch and TensorFlow. Those are the two popular open source software solutions. And then hardware, RISC-V. RISC-V is the hardware. So these are systems that will bypass the proprietary corporate walled garden thing that companies like Google, X.com, OpenAI, Microsoft, all these companies who create walled gardens to try to capture customers and make it difficult for them to switch outside of the walled garden. So these systems, PyTorch and TensorFlow software and RISC-V or 5 hardware, will be the go-to solutions for open source AI. So the world will move towards this open source AI because anything that's cheaper, does not lock in customers, and especially that allows more privacy and on-premises use and operation of a large language model. Because companies don't want their data going out across the public internet where it's potentially exposed to being sniffed off the wire or collected up by nefarious actors. Companies want their interaction, at least a portion of their interaction with artificial intelligence, to be on premises and private, and they want to keep it private. And open source solutions allow that to happen. So this is a growing trend. There's a need out there for a Red Hat style company. If you're not familiar with Red Hat, look up Red Hat Linux, and you can see the evolution of that company. But that's kind of where things are going with artificial intelligence, because it's when a company does not own the hardware, it becomes a problem. I mean, people have been comparing this to the cloud, but when privacy becomes an issue and when cost drops, like I said, this is a $1,000 system right here. I bought it 2.5 years ago. It's my laptop. You can't really beat that. And since you're already going to have an in-house AI staffer, you may as well have one devoted to building up your creating your initial build of an AI system and then improving it as time goes on. So that's kind of the direction things are going. If you have any questions about this, please post questions in the comments. I'll try to answer them. And I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.